Snyder's Return is a tabletop role-playing podcast featuring interviews and a D&D 5e actual play adventure, so you can learn about different game systems and content creation, while also listening to us disrupt everyday life on the Sword Coast. We release episodes every Tuesday and Thursday on your podcasting platform, so come join us as we improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Life's a game, the world's a stage, and we are merely role-players where theatrical people play role-playing games. I am Matt Boothman. I have been a member of the cast for this studio production. I am now your compere Backstage as we wrap it all up. I am joined by the rest of the cast of the production.
Hello, I'm Josh. I was playing Bilbo Biltong.
Hello, I am Nat. I was playing Sherpa.
Hello, my name's Alex. I was playing Mike Sherpa.
And I was also playing Gregg Nevin. Fiasco, first time any of us have played it. Mm-hmm. It's a GMless game. It's incredibly freeform. How do we find it?
Dumb. But good dumb.
Yeah, really stupid.
Yeah.
Really stupid.
Yeah.
I appreciate that we introduced a lot of stupid elements, but a lot of that came from the book.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Two-handed sword slightly used. Definitely a silly element.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which, to be fair, we did choose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. But, you know, some of it's decided by the dice and it's all in the play set. Somebody did write that detail for us to pick up.
That's true. That is true.
Yep. And the co-workers at a funeral monument carving workshop.
Jesus Christ.
Such a specific detail.
Who came up with that in that book, honestly?
But so much was gained from that.
I know.
So much.
We had to spend a lot of Act 1 explaining what it was and why it was there.
Mainly because we didn't know. We were like, is it this or is it this?
Like, you compare it to the Beanstalk Show Club, which still has a slightly odd name, but we didn't really, because it wasn't so bizarre in the way that the Funeral Monument Carving Workshop was. I feel like the Beanstalk was a little more generic, didn't get fleshed out. Like, I felt like I knew the workshop. Like, I can see it.
The culture instilled by the master.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it gave us Mike's and Gregg's rivalry. It gave us the well-endowed cherubs.
Yeah.
It gave us the monument that falls through the stage at the end.
Yeah.
Gregg's final act.
There was a lot more masonry in this than I thought there was going to be before we started.
More rock than roll.
More rock than
Yeah.
roll, absolutely.
Yeah.
Rock and roll play.
Oh,
That's what we'll have to call it.
yeah. Yeah, it gave us some metaphors for Gregg coming out of his shell, breaking through the stone.
Yeah.
I was saying to Matt off mic earlier, but that was the most relaxed I felt with like a GMless game. I think sometimes you can feel a little bit like you're floundering because you play role-playing games and you're just so used to having a DM or a GM that will jump in and say, no, that doesn't happen, or actually the room is this big, or actually this person appears.
Yeah.
So to have the freedom to say whatever you want to is a bit daunting, but this gave... I know it was silly enough that there was no bad answers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I felt very comfortable introducing elements, and I think we all came up with a lot.
Yeah, and I think you're not worried about bringing in mechanics in the scenes either. Like, so in Galactic, you can frame scenes and stuff, and then as you're going through the scenes, you might be looking down at your character sheet going, okay, what are my weak and strong moves, and so on. Whereas this, like, once a scene is going, you know that the only thing you have to decide, and maybe not even you have to decide, somebody has to decide, is, like, which way does it go for you at the end. I think for us specifically, who have experience doing improv, I think it just means that you just kind of let it go at that point, just let it roll.
Yeah, I think when it's so free-form as well, like I say, no idea is a bad idea. And if you're playing a farcical game like this, you can introduce characters with really stupid names and not worry that you're ruining the tone. Whereas if you're playing a serious game, you've got to introduce somebody and you call them Bing Bong, then you just ruined, the whole tone. Whereas this, you can bring in whoever you want to.
Yeah. Tito Luna was a pre-written name, I should say.
Yeah.
Tito Luna Jr. was not.
Our invention. The tiger or the wild animal came from one of the Fiasco tables, but we decided what it was and what his name was.
It was interesting what you were saying about the fact that it was so free form and like so you can do anything you like. I did find that a little bit overwhelming because I don't think I've played a GMless game yet. But because of the silliness, and I think because of the people that I'm playing with, like I'm comfortable playing with you guys and we can riff off each other, so that in and of itself makes it comfortable. And I know definitely Matt came to my aid with the sword and the stone right at the very end. He was like, that hasn't been mentioned. Probably should drop that in there. So I think having two people, it's like you Josh as well. Like you can see the two people that DM a lot because you two came in quite frequently, being like, oh, this could happen and this could happen. Whereas I was like, I'm gonna wait to see if anything drops into my head, and sometimes it did, and sometimes it didn't.
I think it's nice in games like this that you can kind of pick who's in each scene, and the remaining people can be the audience and the peanut gallery and ask questions and throw in details. That's always works quite nicely, I think.
There's a collective responsibility for everybody to provide something to the scene, because it's kind of not nice being the centre of a scene when you're improvising, because it can be quite overwhelming if you've got no framework. So to then have the other people at the table throwing in silly suggestions, throwing in ideas, bringing characters in, sort of takes the spotlight off of you a little bit, which is nice. And like I say, everybody has got the chance to jump in, even when they're not in a scene, like you said, Matt, and can bring in some really stupid characters.
For sure.
Yeah, the security guards and the master and the boy on the beach.
Poor Derek.
Poor Derek.
The first casualty of this story.
Fuck off, Derek.
I mean, we're talking unpacking the game and the mechanics in quite intellectual terms. But what is everybody's just immediate impression that they're left with from this game?
That's really fucking silly.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
My main question is, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, almost every scene, something happened in it that was unexpected, and I couldn't have. If you'd given me hours, I wouldn't have thought, oh yeah, Alex is going to do this. Oh yeah, Nat's going to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and some of it emerged quite slowly as well. Like, it was little details like Gregg envisaging Sue as some sort of avatar of death.
Yes!
Was a kind of a thing that was sort of slow burned throughout the whole story. Like, it wasn't a weird thing that happened in one scene. It just we kept feeding it
kept
through.
Bouncing off and building and pushing it further and further.
Honestly, listeners, if you could have seen the look on Nat's face when she first did the voice of Sue, she just scared herself. She just looked like, what? Who is this woman? Where has this come from? Why am I playing an old sea witch? I'm very, very confused right now.
I think this is the problem, isn't it? Why am I playing an old sea witch again?
You're comfortable with it, and it was great.
You're a very competent sea witch.
One day I will play a character that is not old woman with lots of hair. Some ties to death.
If there was a time to play an old woman with lots of ties to death, it was this playset about aging rockers reaching the ends of their road.
Yeah.
I was glad. I almost felt a bit stumped in Act 1 when it just felt we were trying to recruit people. I was a bit worried we'd spend the entirety of Act 1 being like, now we need to find this person, now we need to recruit this person. So
but your decision to just jump immediately from the conflict with the master won't let them be in the band to just can the next scene just be the master's funeral was just absolute genius.
I was just worried it was going to be lots of arguing with the master, and Alex's look on his face was like, I don't want to do this character anymore.
I like the master. I was glad that I brought him in.
Eating pot noodles in bed. Yeah,
the fact that we opened the shutter doors and he'd just been in there the entire time, so he gets locked in every night.
Grandpa Joe in bed, waiting every single
just
night.
Astonishing levels of silly.
Waiting and watching, keeping going.
It's nice to be able to set a scene as well, or at least if you as an individual give up the ability on your turn to set the scene, you can give it to everybody, and so then we can all jump in and say, oh, how about this? Yes, and this, yes, and that, and you just start to sort of build it up from the ground.
Snowballs.
Yeah, again, takes away the responsibility of one person, like a GM, who has to think on their feet. It's like, well, if we all do it together, we're all responsible for the bullshit that comes out.
Yeah.
Was anybody consciously trying to game it in terms of the numbers and colours of dice you were picking up? Was anybody going like, oh, I need to resolve this one because I want to make sure I get this particular die?
No. I mean, there was a vague sort of leaning towards black as soon as I got a black dice, but it wasn't anything I was like, I've got to do this. It was more like, it just keeps happening this way, and people kept basically shafting me to allow me to get black dice. So I think it was actually more collaborative, because people could have been like, no, you succeeded there. Have a white dice.
I think, it wasn't necessarily like an intentional, I'm going to go after all the white dice and win. I'm going to win this game that you're not really supposed to win.
No, exactly.
But that being said, for the first two for the scenes in Act 1, I had a very clear idea of like, I think this would be a good scene that would make sense, and I know what my goals are through that scene, so I know what I'm driving towards, and happen to have succeeded. And then for Act 2, I was like, I don't know what I want to do, so I may as well choose the dice. And then at that point, it's like, well, I may as well go all in on white dice, because that's where I am.
It was nice. It felt like it was different characters in the driving seat at different points.
Yeah.
Like Mike's plan drove a lot of the end of Act 1, but Sue drove a lot of the beginning of Act 1, and then, Act 2 was a free-for-all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice that everybody gets that moment to be in the spotlight by leading a scene and saying, if you decide to establish rather than resolve, to say, this is the scene I want, I'm going to do this. So it gives agency to people to come in with their creative ideas, and so there's not one like lead character and everybody else is quiet and silent throughout.
Yeah. Were there any details or plot threads we ended up dropping?
We made sure that we brought back the bouncers. We mentioned all of the band members. Oh no, we didn't. We didn't mention the bassist in the final scene, or at the party either.
She had a great time at the party and got out fine.
Yeah.
If they weren't mentioned, they survived.
Sure. Yeah. Same with the backing vocalists, like the group of mixed vocalists, who they were, what they were doing. I guess it's, did we flesh out the details? We were assuming the tiger made it out all right. We weren't explicit with
It was aslead. We'll assume it got out.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was good that the backing musicians were all silent. Like, no, did anybody take on the role of them at any point?
No.
So we said what they did, but nobody put a voice to them. So that was good. They were just background people
dressing.
who could. They were dressing.
We were involving them in scenes. We just didn't need any dialogue from them.
No.
Yeah.
And I feel like all of the details that we established right at the beginning, the relationships and the needs, etc., all played pretty strongly into the story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing felt neglected, and the two tilt elements came through very strongly.
Yep.
Yeah, that was that. I didn't quite understand when you explained to me the first time how the tilt elements worked, and then when you see them work, when you see it happen, you're like,
They just come in and just mess up everybody's carefully laid plans. Like by that point, you've done 8 scenes of people trying to make their needs and wants happen, and then you just need something to come in and cause problems.
Sneak cap it. Surprise! Oh.
And the twins made out like bandits.
Yeah. Had a great time.
Great outcomes for both of them.
Get to make loads of cherubs for the rest of his days. I think he's happy.
Yeah. That's the only goal he had in life. Lift and cherub penises.
Yeah. A simple man.
Yeah. But I think Sue is similarly simple. It just wants to inspire others and waft about.
To do what, though? Inspire others to
be their best selves.
Oh, right, okay. Because I'm aware that you sort of became the avatar of death, so I wasn't quite sure where that was going. I'm inspiring others to kill.
Well, that inspired you to not.
Yeah, precisely.
You still did, though.
It was an accident, Josh. I cut his head off by accident.
So you drew the sword to...
Is this going to be another merely role players Alexander Pankhurst controversy? Did Alex mean to behead Tito Luna or not?
Of course he did. 100%.
So no,
knowing full well that was the original plan.
I thought it would be funny if it happened anyway, but it happened by mistake.
After he's decided not to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And burn down the theatre instead.
Yes.
Okay.
So it wasn't like, yes, I did do it, but I didn't mean to do it, and I think that's a very important like dividing line.
We'll see how that stands up in a court of law.
yeah.
I didn't mean to, Your Honour. Is he still dead? Yes.
Matt, can we set up a Twitter poll when this episode comes out and see?
We all know it's rigged. We all know Richard Stratton will come in and ruin it and make me look like a guilty party. So I don't think it's it's
we know that
kangaroo court.
in the fiction, Mike did no time for that. Bilbo took the fall for all of the crimes.
Yeah, bizarrely. Like,
Somehow.
no one mentioned Tito's beheaded corpse.
Yeah, especially Marjorie, right? No,
Meredith.
Sorry, Meredith. If she survived the hair fire incident, would say, "By the way, that guy over there just cut his head off."
I feel like maybe she didn't.
Yeah,
maybe she knew it was an accident. She was like, "These things happen."
Yeah.
A man's dead.
Never mind.
No, she was supportive of Toto in his villainy. So she died.
And I was saying this offline just now. I really enjoyed playing a sap. Every story that Fiasco is set up to emulate all of the Coen Brothers movies and disasters need a complete sap who's just led around, and that was me, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Although, as we said, don't forget, listeners, he kicked a priest into a grave.
Yes.
In the third scene.
Not innocent.
Classic sap manoeuvre. I don't like what that priest's saying. We're going to yeet him into a grave.
Don't appreciate he's appealing for peace at a funeral
Yeah.
right now. Take this, you bastard.
I mean, Gregg's story would be sort of unmitigated tragedy had he not kicked a priest into a grave and done all of the been tempted into doing all of the drugs when asked. Like, I feel like because he did those two things,
In many ways, it's a good way to say don't do drugs.
that's
All at the
that's
same
the
time.
that's the moral of this Merely Roleplay's production. Take it from some people who, as you could tell from the production, are experts on doing the drugs.
Platter drugs for your delectation.
Ambassador, you spoiled us.
If you do drugs, do them sensibly and with someone that you can rely on. And also, don't kick priests. It's really bad for them.
Yeah. But oboes are still really boring me out.
Yeah, listen, if you play an oboe and you're listening to this, unsubscribe right now, you boring bastard. Get out. Can we start a list of all the people we've upset on the podcast?
I'm pretty sure, wasn't it Capricorns?
Oh yeah, Capricorns can do
Yeah.
one. If you're a Capricorn and you play the oboe, get in touch. I want to meet you.
Matt, you can defend yourself.
Well, technically, because of the 13th zodiac constellation, they
I'm
found
sure.
I'm a Sagittarius now.
Right, sure.
Classic
What?
Sagittarius.
Join the club.
What?
Did anybody want to see anything that didn't happen? Is my question.
I feel like that, like the potential, there was potential for like a final conflict or some sort of resolution between Bilbo and Gregg on stage.
Yeah.
Battle of the Frontmen. Who takes the torch in the end?
Yeah.
Which they were denied that by the fire and the falling phalluses and stuff. But I feel like maybe that will then happen in Hades afterwards.
In Rock and Roll Hades, yeah. I thought with the whole bringing out of the microphone and Bilbo realising it was no longer he'd handed over the baton to you. He didn't return to the front of the stage. He kept up stage with his guitar. I think that was like a ceremonial handing over of the crown and the theremin to Sue in that same scene. So I don't think there would have been...
Gregg probably didn't realise the significance of what was happening at that point, and then he fell in a swimming pool.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's possibly the only moment where I think the structure or the rules, they didn't get in the way as such, but all the way through we've been following this strict order of Josh, then me, then Alex, then Matt.
Yeah.
Whereas for that final act, maybe things would have turned out differently if we'd have gone Matt first.
Yeah.
So we'd made sure we got your stories before because we knew chaos was happening when it came around to Alex. Right.
Bring in the carnage.
So if we'd shifted it as to who went first,
Yeah,
how
that could have been
different.
really different.
Because I guess going first, you've got the responsibility of setting up. You might not have the opportunity to do the denouement of creating your own finale because someone else will conduct it. Right?
So I wonder if there is an argument reversing the order for Act 2. So Act 1, you do 8 clockwise, and then you start the last person and go anti-clockwise the next time.
That might very well be that I'll need to look back at the rules and see if they say anything about that.
I'm not
Well, I don't want to slander Fiasco and Bully Pulpit Games by saying that their game doesn't do that, because I have no idea actually whether it does or not.
It's one of those things that's is more of a, in this case, in this scenario, I wonder if, rather than this is how it should be done.
There's probably home rules and stuff that you and house rules that you can implement for sure.
Would anybody make any choices differently, given the chance?
I might have chosen a different voice because my throat really hurts now after all that rasping. I'm sure Alex feels the same.
Yep.
I'm not too bad.
Great.
And you were the one that started the
the
voice of the twins.
I do wish that I'd managed to get through any single scene without corpsing though. That would have been nice.
Or crying.
You would
cry laughing.
Oh my goodness. I need to hydrate.
One thing I would have done differently, had I had the forethought, would be to write down a list of different descriptions for penis, just so that I could have worked through more of them. I feel that was a wasted opportunity. So to the listeners, I apologise.
Are there any of those words that you don't feel like you used that you just like to get on mic now?
No, because I can't remember the ones that I've said and ones I haven't said. So I don't want to muddy the penile waters, as it were.
Our 10th studio album, Penile Waters.
Oh no.
Matt, as the person that knew the most about the game before we turned up, how do you think it went? Did it go in the direction you thought it would? Anything you wish you'd done?
I'm really pleased with how it went. As ever, running a game, or obviously I wasn't running it, but like bringing a game to the table that I've never played or run before, that none of us have ever played before. You never know how it's going to work. The main thing I was worried about was like not knowing what a scene should be or what somebody might want out of it, and like losing focus and ending up just, in improv when you get into a loop and you get stuck and you're like, this scene is going nowhere, somebody please rescue me. I was worried about that happening. I think we had maybe a couple of moments early on where we started getting a bit bogged down, but I think we all helped each other through that. I think our improv experience paid off, and I think the game does help, like by saying like there should be a point in each scene where you know how it's going to resolve. I think that really helps. And I have absolutely no regrets about us choosing this playset.
No, it was great fun.
We considered a few others. Because there's a sort of prequel to this one, which is a rock and roll band, but in their prime, young rock and roll band. And we considered some others, but everybody liked the idea of this one. So, and I think we got great results. Gregg results.
Great results.
Rock reference. Wait, no.
That button's broken. Sorry. Sugar Babes reference.
Well, I think all that remains to say is thank you all very much for playing.
Thank you
for inviting us along.
And thank you, everybody in the audience, for staying with us for this studio production. We'll see you back in the main house.
Rock and roll!
Keep rock and rolling.
Jared Penis.
Penile Waters.
No!
This has been Monumental Exit, a studio production from Merely Roleplayers, starring Matt Boothman as Gregg Nevin, Natalie Winter as Sue Sherpa, Alexander Pankhurst as Mike Sherpa, and Josh Yard as Bilbo Biltong. The theme music is by Alexander Pankhurst, and the episode was edited and produced by Matt Boothman. We were playing Fiasco, a role-playing game by Jason Morningstar published by Bully Pulpit Games. Head to bullypulpitgames.com to find Fiasco and many, many Fiasco playsets, including After the Music Stopped, the one we were playing. Merely Roleplayers is a Foggy Outline production in association with Blackshaw Theatre Company. Until next time, if drama be the food of life, play on!